to be a part of the last sprint officially. Obviously, if I'm streaming into Facebook, you are part of this. However, the people who are on Zoom get the workbook and they also get the Q&A. So super excited. And today we're talking about one of my favorite things to talk about, because ultimately, if we want to run towards a finish line, it means that we have to have a goal. It means that we have to be very specific with where we want to go with our business, our life, our dreams. And many of us really spend a lot of time kind of spinning our wheels and not doing the right things that kind of get us into the place where we want to be. So the first thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to tell you a story. I'm going to tell you a story about, and some of you who are on Facebook probably know this. A couple of years, it's been more than a couple of years now. A few years ago, I did a triathlon with some women that I adore. They're fantastic, lovely, incredible women. And at first I was a little nervous to do this little triathlon because I thought, I don't know, I'm not like a super athlete. I'd like to be a better athlete, stronger, fitter. And I've been working toward that my whole life. So lo and behold, I signed up for this triathlon and life got in the way of my plans. My mentor, my friend, my boss at the company in which I worked got really sick. And she was diagnosed with cancer a couple of years before that. And she ended up having her cancer come back in January 2017. And she passed a couple months before the triathlon. And professionally and also personally, it was a big hit. I really didn't feel like working out, honestly. I didn't feel like training. I also didn't think I was going to show up at all to this triathlon because I thought, you know what? I don't know. I don't even have the bandwidth to be able to do that. So for that reason, I ended up deciding that I was going to kind of call it a day and maybe not participate at all. And at one point I said, you know what? No, I'm going to do it. Even if I finish, as long as I am not last, I'm going to do it. And I've been revisiting some lessons when it comes to swimming, because I learned to swim at the age of 14 and my dad taught me. So I was never like a super duper swimmer. But I knew that I needed to refine that skill. And I've been taking lessons and going to the Y and practicing. And then I decided that I was going to really practice some of my running and my bicycling. And I bought a brand new bike. I was so excited for that. So lo and behold, I show up, I drive to South Carolina where the triathlon was going to be. And I was here so excited. I was there with like 10 of my favorite girlfriends, and we were going to do it. The day of the race came, and the first thing is I was terrified when we did the swimming. Number one, because as soon as, and they line you up based on how you rated yourself as a swimmer, and being a little high achiever, I didn't want to rate myself last because I figure, all right, I'm going to be somewhere in the middle. And it's, I guess maybe I was overshooting, but whatever. So we were standing in line in really the middle of the pack, and people jump into the pool. And as they jump into the pool, all of a sudden I'm terrified because I'm looking at these swimmers and they are like fast. They are like Olympic swimmers. And I'm thinking, what was I thinking? Oh my gosh, I'm going to fail. And then all of a sudden my girlfriend who was next to me, Mary, she says to me, honey, those are like the Olympic swimmers. We're the regular folk back here. It's fine. So that kind of calmed me down, and it got to be my turn. I jumped in the pool and I'm swimming, and I was actually doing it. I was like, ooh, look at me go. And I was like moving along the 200 meters, and it was so fun. And then all of a sudden I decided to kind of look to the side of me and see what people were doing. And then I realized that slowed me down. It's like, I can't believe this. How am I doing this? It's slowing me down. And then I realized, like, the more that I slowed down, the harder it became. And then I realized, Julie, stop paying attention to other people. Just swim in your own lane and do this here. And that kind of kept me going. So I came out of the water. I'm like, oh, okay, I got to run to where my bike is and put my shoes on. And, I put my little headset on, which you're not really supposed to have, but I needed some music, right, to keep me going. And I get on the bike and I keep going. I'm like, oh my gosh, but my legs are kind of like tired already. And I'm biking and everything is fine. Then all of a sudden, the next thing happens. I fall off my bike. I had maybe like a mile left before we finished, and I fall off the bike. And it was just sort of this surreal moment when I fall off the bike and I'm on the ground and I'm like, whoa. And I see the truck, a truck by like a police truck that was kind of monitoring the race. They're like, he's driving to where he saw me fall. And as I'm laying on the ground and the police comes like, are you okay? Let me help you up. I'm like, don't touch me, don't touch me. Because I was doing a mental assessment of what was going on with my body. What was going on with my brain? Is anything broken? Okay. I know it was shaken up. And I said, okay, let me just get up. And I start to kind of pull myself up. And I'm sort of wobbly. And he's like, "Oh, I'll put your bike in the back of the truck, and I'll take you back in." I'm like, "No, no, no, no! I'm gonna finish this." And he's like, "Are you sure?" I'm like, "Yes, yes, I'm sure." And I'm like, "Hold, please." And I happen to have my phone right where I was listening to music inside my bra, so I pull it out of my bra, and I turn on some Elvis to get me going. Okay. And it was a little rough, but I finished. And again, I was kind of like hoping that I was not the last person and I could see other people coming behind me. So I got to the place where we finished the part of the race where you're doing the bicycling. And then I start the running, and it's a 2-mile run, nothing major. It was nothing big. It was just very easy by all standards when it comes to running, right? So I could not really start the run. I'm like, I'm just going to walk right now. And I was walking and I was walking and I started to kind of walk. And then there was another woman who was part of our group. I didn't know her very well. And I was walking with her and we're talking. And the more that we talk to each other and kind of keep each other going, the more that we are moving along. And then, like, as we're doing this loop, I knew we had probably about half a mile left. And every step of the way, we're sort of like starting to maybe jog a little bit, but it was hard. And I'm like, I don't think I can make it. I don't think I can make it. I know that we were in the last sprint, the last stretch. And at this point, I'm like, I don't know. I don't know. And there were some little girls passing out water and I took a drink and I'm like, oh my God, I'm going to be last. Oh, I don't even want to do this anymore. I'm going to be last. I failed at this. And I'm like, nope, I need to keep going. But really, if like your body, when you're putting yourself through like extraneous circumstances like that, my body was like, my legs are shaking. I'm still a little, sore from the fall. And I don't even know where my energy was. I don't even know where that like last push was going to come from. And then from around the corner, all my other girlfriends who had already finished the race came around the corner and they're cheering and they said, no friend left behind. No she left behind. Come on, let's do it. You can do it. And they all came alongside me and we kept running into the finish line. And I came across the side and I see the finish line. And I thought, okay, I can do this. Legs, let's run. And I started to run because I wanted to hit that finish line. I wanted to finish strong. And I did it. And that was my last sprint. And I am a triathlete because I was able to do that. And again, I apologize if I'm not looking at you directly or here directly because I have 2 cameras going. Maybe I'll get the tech a little better for tomorrow. But ultimately, I look at that story in a way that is so meaningful to me because One, there's so many different things that we don't plan for in life. There's so many different things that are happening that we don't realize that are happening. There's so many things that are beyond our control when it comes to life. We are human. So for that reason, no matter how much we plan and we create, like I had a little schedule for working out, for preparing for this race, but I never really got to implement that for the most part because of things that went on, right? So I needed to be able to then create something toward the end of the race that would allow me to finish strong. And I didn't do it alone. I had someone that walked with me and ran and sprinted with me those last 2 miles, but then I also had the support of that community that came alongside of me to be able to move ahead. So as I was looking at the last sprint for this and why I wanted to do this is because I know that we can't do it alone as business owners. I know that as people who are trying to make an impact in the world, it takes a lot of planning. It takes a lot of recalibrating of our goals. And it also takes a real big understanding of what is the daily action that gets you traction. And this is something that I talk about all the time. If you've heard any of my podcasts or if you've heard any of my other trainings, consistent action, it gets you traction. So today I want to talk a little bit about what is it that are the things that you need to do in order to be successful at finishing strong for this last race, for this opportunity to really make 2022 the best year ever in your business, in your life, and not look back on January 1st and think, I didn't do it. Oh no, I failed, because there's no failure. It's just a matter of doing things in a way that makes sense. So the first thing that I want you to think about is look back, and I want you to take an opportunity. And again, if you are in Facebook and you did not know this is happening, but you want to participate and you want to get the link to the workbook, you can sign up, and I'm going to put the link in the comments. And for those of you who are on Zoom with me, I want you to take a look at the first question. The first question is to look back at what has happened so far and come up with what your top 3 achievements are so far for this year. The reason that I want you to think about that is because there is something that happens to us that we live in the gap or the gain. And I don't know if anybody's heard this, but when we are living in the gap of life, we are living in a space in which we are focusing on the what I haven't done. When I was in that race, right? When I was in that swimming line, getting ready to jump into the pool, I was in the gap. I was in the moment where I was focused on what I couldn't, didn't, and wasn't able to do. And that's swim like an Olympic person. That's the gap. For as long as we live in that gap, we are never going to be able to then show up as successfully as possible, as we would like. So think of those 3 top accomplishments, achievements. Maybe for you is you got one big client. Maybe you were able to then create a master program or a course, or you reached a new revenue, or maybe you left your full-time job and started your own business. Whatever it may be, that is the point, right? That is the first step, is really making sure that you understand what your top achievements are. Once you know what your top achievements are, I want you to also look back to see what you have overcome, right? There's things that come our way that sometimes throw us for a loop. I know that for me, there's been different things this year in particular that have been great successes, but there's also some things that have been setbacks, things that have knocked me off for a loop. And it's very important to be able to identify what challenges you have overcome. And, whether it be personal challenges, professional gains, personal gains. Now it's time to also know, how did your business grow? And this is a conversation from year to year. And again, this is getting back into the gain conversation. Certainly I don't think if it were up to me, I would be making a couple $1,000,000 already in my business, but I'm not. And I would be servicing and making an impact and creating a larger, a larger reach for people that I want to service, but I'm not there yet. Doesn't mean that I'm not going to get there, but I want to focus more on the things that I was able to grow for this year. One of the biggest things in which I grew this year is now, in addition to the podcast, in addition to having private clients, the other thing is we have a radio show. This is a great way for us to be able to get our message out there, to be able for me to bring the incredible stories of individuals who are doing amazing things and living in their purpose. I didn't have that last year. So that's a big growth for the brand, for Casa de Confidence brand, for Confident You, for Go Confidently Services, right? So those are the things that I want you to think of. And now here is the other place that we need to look. We had some goals. We had goals at the beginning of the year, and Cairo, I know that you were at the CEO retreat. So we talked about goals, and goals are something that everybody knows. Oh, I need a goal, I need a SMART goal. But how many of us are really setting goals that are reasonable, that are that are achievable, that are really well thought out? A lot of people say, I want to lose weight as a goal, but they never talk about, well, maybe something specific like I want to lose 10 pounds, or I want to be able to fit into this, or I want to, as someone who, like the example of me doing the triathlon, maybe my goal was to not run the triathlon, but maybe my goal was to finish it. Right? That was more specific than just run it or do it. Yeah, I showed up, but that's not very specific. Finishing is more specific. Now I could get more specific and say, hey, I want to be able to, bike those 9-10 miles in, I don't even know how long it took me, whatever it was. I'm sure I can look it up. But all of these things, right? And the question that I want you to think about is, who do you need to be? So for me, in order to achieve the goal of finishing a triathlon, means that I am the person who's going to have to walk, swim, run, bicycle every day. I had to be the person who owns a bike. I had to be the person that signed up for a little more intermediate swimming classes. I had to be the person that also started to do some running, worked with a few people that encouraged and supported her in the process. The same thing for our business or in your life. If you want to be the person that, fill in the blank, whatever your goal is, what is that person that is a successful business owner that maybe has created, that has surpassed her corporate salary? Who did I need to be that person? Do I need to be the person that doesn't take her work seriously, doesn't show up professionally? And sometimes as entrepreneurs, there is a danger in us thinking like, oh, I'm an entrepreneur. Oh, I have time. I can be lackadaisical. And that's great. And then the other side of the coin, when it comes to being an entrepreneur, some entrepreneurs go from a 9 to 5 to working 24/7. So I want you to think about, who is it that you are? Are you the person that's working 24/7? Are you the person that is still with the 9 to 5 mentality? Do you need a 9 to 5 mentality? What is it that you need to become in order to achieve your goals? As we move on from that, the other thing is that all of us tend to self-sabotage how we are choosing to show up. We sabotage our goals because we stop, one, visiting our goals, number two, taking daily action to our goals, right? So the next thing that I want you to think about is, if I were to get in my own way, what would be the things that I would do? So for me in my business, a lot of the things that I tend to do is to self-sabotage myself, because self-sabotage is big for me and for most people, right? Is I am a high achiever. As a high achiever, I sabotage myself by working so hard that I can get to burnout really quickly. So I have to manage that. I have a client in she won't mind me sharing this, but I have a client that loves to make sure that everybody is cared for, that everybody is taken care of, and that everybody is really being supported. And she is a people pleaser. And by being a people pleaser, she will put other people's needs first before she does herself. So even though she may have to do something for her business, she's going to say yes to baking cookies for the PTA, or she's going to say to her husband, oh, no problem, I will pick up the laundry, or I will volunteer at the kids' school, whatever it is. So I want you to think about, how is it that you're self-sabotaging? And if you don't know what your saboteurs are, I have a list of all the different saboteurs, and there is a quiz that you can take and you can figure out who your saboteurs are. So you can either comment here, or if you are in Zoom and you don't know who your saboteurs are, I want to go ahead and share the quiz with you as well. And that's, you don't have to have it in my, in front of you to be able to take advantage of this, but it's important, because as we create this last sprint, these last 3 months, you are going to need to be aware of what are the behaviors that trip you up, what are the behaviors that keep you from being able to show up as successful as possible. So that's very important. And then I want you to think about, if you can close your eyes for a minute with me and think about, who is it that wakes up on January 1st? And, we've gone through Halloween, Election Day, we've gone through Thanksgiving, Christmas holidays and parties, and Kwanzaa, and everything with Hanukkah, gathering with friends, maybe a couple snowstorms if you're in the Northeast or anywhere cold. And I want you to think about, as you wake up in the morning, what is it that you are experiencing? You're looking back. Who is this person that is waking up? What did they accomplish? How do they feel about what they were able to do? If you know that, I want you to open your eyes and I want you to think about the advice. What is the best advice your future self can give you? What is the best advice that your future self 3 months from today is going to give you today? Is it to go bed early? Is it to maybe journal? Is it to have an accountability partner? What did it take for future self you to do the things and achieve the things that they did for the last 3 months? Knowing what happens in the last 3 months, right? What are we going to be doing? I talked about just now, as we were visualizing, some of the holidays and things that happen, but you also, each of you, have individual things in your calendars that are coming up. You have individual things that, maybe there's a family gathering, maybe there's birthdays, maybe you have a trip coming up that is going to require you to be out. Maybe you have a speaking engagement, maybe you're running a group coaching, maybe you're launching something. So whatever it is, what's on your calendar, and it's very important for you to take a moment and picture all of that, and then begin to think about, what is it that all of that happening, how did you navigate it, and have that future self you tell us what is it that it took for you to accomplish those goals. Next, we're going to talk about your goals. And during the CEO retreat. The CEO retreat, I run that a couple times a year, once in November and once in January. And I run a CEO retreat because ultimately, when you plan as the CEO of your life and business, then you can achieve your dreams. You can live the life that you've imagined in both personally and professionally, whether you have a business or whether you're in a career. So it's very important to understand, right? What does it take? And, revenue is something that, whether if you're in a career, you're obviously making a certain income from your job as a professional, but it's very important, is the job that you have meeting your needs? And that's important because we get so bogged down when what we're doing and we're investing time and effort and everything into is not giving us the dividend that we're looking for. So we, during the CEO retreat, we actually make a list of all of the things that we have to pay for. Our cell phone, our food, our home, our internet, maybe some new fall boots or whatever it is that we want. But we want to make sure that we're very clear on what are the expenses that we need to pay for. But then the other thing is, I want you to think about what are the things that you want to also cover. Maybe you want to have holiday gifts for friends and family. Maybe you want to contribute to that charity that has a special place in your heart. Maybe you want to go ahead and get a facial massage, or you want to splurge on going to Disney or updating your home before family and friends come to visit. So all of that are things that you want to go ahead and also make sure that you list. And that is how at the beginning of the year, when we do the CEO retreat, we create that number, right? Because your monetary goal should not be an arbitrary number. It should be a number that you actually pay attention to, that you actually are doing based on important things, based on the things that matter to you. Obviously, our basic needs is important, and secondary, also the other ones. And then you can also create a goal that is a stretch goal, right? Oh my goodness, I always have a stretch goal. I always have to go above and beyond, right? And I talked about that a person in me that wants to be super high achiever and is going to go above and beyond. She's going to take it on. Now, these are your goals. Perhaps there are other goals that you set at the beginning of the year, goals that you wanted to service X amount of clients, or you wanted to make $10,000 a month in your business. I want you, and the reason that we're thinking about our goals and we're looking at them right now is not to feel bad, right, about what we do or didn't do for the past 2022. What we want to do is we actually want to talk about this, because this is what's going to help us to recalibrate, right? If we set a goal in January, it's important to know, where are we with that goal? If we set out to lose 10 pounds in January and we've gained 20 instead, what is reasonable for us to do between now and the end of the year, right? It's not going to be, you could be losing 10 pounds, you have 3 months. But I want you to think about that. Again, if you set out at the beginning of the year to make $500,000, $500,000, and you've only made 10,000, I'm not going to say it's impossible, but I want you to also have realistic, smart goals for the 3 months, right? So these are things that I want you to evaluate and I want you to think about. So if you haven't already done so, revisit. And here's the challenge for some of you as well. Where did you write down your goals for the year? Did you write them down in your planner? Do you revisit them every month? In my calendar, and some of you have already heard me talk about this, on my calendar on my phone, every first of the month, I get a little reminder, and it says, revisit your life. Revisit your life. And that's, the day that I go in and I look through, what are the things that I wanted to accomplish and really in my business, I review my goals not only daily, weekly, monthly, quarterly, but also for my life. And my business is part of my life. So I review that. There is such power in knowing what you're shooting for. Because if you don't know what you're shooting for, you're not going to then be able to create a clear path for where you are going. So be very clear and specific with yourself in reassessing where you are with your goals. So once you have your goals, today we're starting with new recalibration of these goals. So let's get excited for that, because the recalibration of your goals is super important. It's something that is going to make you feel good. You're going to feel empowered, because you know what? We can't go back and change the past. All we can do is impact the right now. And anytime that you're thinking of the past, then you're bringing yourself down. Anytime that you're thinking about the future, which you can't control, you are also bringing yourself down. So yes, we are creating a goal, but we are creating a daily plan. We are creating the today plan to help you accomplish that. So let's talk about what that goal could be for you. And before we move on to that, the next thing that I want you to think about, and for those of you who don't have the booklet, I'm going to teach you another way of doing this little exercise, and I love it. And I could not find my paper; it was upstairs, but we're going to make it anew. And for those who are in Zoom, I'm going to teach you this very important thing. One of my mentors and coaches, Dr. Travis Perry, he is the author of the book Time Balance. And he really is such a smart man. But one of the things that he reminded me is that when we set goals, and our goals are not driven by our priorities, it's gonna really not be easy to achieve those goals. For instance, sometimes I would set a goal of running a triathlon. But when life happened and my friend passed, and I had to reprioritize the time that I was spending my time in, and it certainly wasn't training for a triathlon. It was more like running the company, driving into New York, helping through the transition of losing our leader for the company. The priority shifted. So my goals, I wasn't working toward my goals, right? So this is why it's important to make sure that you prioritize the things that are important to you. So you're going to take a piece of paper, and it hopefully it's a blank piece of paper, and I have one right here that I'm going to show you. So here's my piece of paper, and you can see it's creased, and I folded it in half, and you fold it in half again, and you make this little piece of paper that has 4 quadrants, and there are 10 different areas of life. But for the most part, there are some that are more relevant to some of us than others, right? And what I want you to do is you're going to write the 4 areas of life that are the most important to you. So for me, the most important area of my life would be my husband and home. Okay. My second area of life would be my business, and that includes my clients, my podcast. Okay. The next area would be my health, and then would be my family and friends. Okay. So here are the 4 areas, and I've highlighted based on what's important. And I want you to think about, in 5 years, what do you want to see for each of these areas of your life? What do you want to see for your relationship? So for me, with my relationship with my husband and my home, I want my husband to be in good health, and I want our relationship to be continue to be loving, peaceful, great times, good communication. And I'm writing it down, and I encourage you to do the same, right? For whatever your number one is. For our home, I want us to be paid off. I want our home to be paid off. I also, for my husband, I want us to be able to travel. I also would love for us to, in our home, have dinner at least together, at least 4 times a week. One date night, growth and intimacy, right? I don't want to fall back on our intimacy. I want us to improve, always improving. I also want to have us, for us, again, what I see in 5 years. In 5 years, I'm going to be in my mid 50s as my husband, and I want us to be able to also see more of friends and family. Okay. Now for my business, what do I want for my business? And think about like in 5 years. Well, one of the things that I can tell you that I started to already do and work as a goal for my business is that I only work 30 hours or less. I have Fridays off. I do a lot of travel and speaking engagements around the country. Okay. Also for my podcast, I've continued to have a successful show with amazing guests. The brand of the podcast, because now we also have the radio show, is going to continue to expand. For my business, I want to make sure that we're bringing in 7 figures and that I am able to have additional employees and that are well compensated and have an opportunity for growth, right? For my business as well, I want to make sure that in that income that I'm bringing in from my business, that I'm able to donate a minimum of 10% to all the charities that I feel very passionate about. Okay. So those are my business goals. Then you have for my health. For my health, I want to feel stronger. I want to practice yoga daily. I don't know about another triathlon right now, but maybe in 5 years, I would have finished the Camino de Santiago, which, by the way, I'm in the process of doing, and a big, audacious, hairy goal within the next 5 years. I want to also revisit a big goal I had before, and that's to climb Mount Kilimanjaro. Okay, so that's another big goal in 5 years, right? So guess what is happening as I am entering all of these things, and I'm going to show you here, and pardon my writing, but I'm writing them on here real time with you because I want you to see that, yes, this is something that obviously for me, I've been thinking about, but I also want you, and you can revisit, you don't have to fill it out all together. For my family, I want to be able to see my nieces and nephews more often. I want to be able to give generously to family members. My mom, I am hoping my mom is blessed with hundreds of years still with me and that I can just spoil her rotten, right? Right? So all of these things are part of my top 4 priorities. This is what my life looks like. This is what I want for myself. This is what I'm working toward. So it's very important for you to have a clear understanding. And the reason that this is a clear understanding, and I'm going to show you, one of the things that I talked about is for my relationship with my husband, I want to have at least dinner together 4 times a week. What does that mean? It means that if that is part of a priority for my life, and I have a goal for my business that I want to service 100 women reach their dream of making an impact and living in their purpose, I'm going to need to be very productive in doing not a dinner time. See what is happening? Because what ends up happening is when we set goals, and if I have a goal of, let's say I want to make, let's throw a number. Let's say I want to make $75,000 between now and the end of the year. There's 3 months, that's $25,000 each month for October, November, December. If that is what I'm doing, then I need to create the margin in my calendar daily, and I need to take the daily action that is going to allow me to then still be the person that has dinner with our husband 4 times a week and goes on a date at least once a week. So I want you to start looking into, what is it does this look like? For those of you who have the workbook, you know that I want you to reevaluate, where are you now? Where do you want to be in 1 year? What have you done in the past? Maybe it's worked, maybe it hasn't. What are the obstacles that are preventing you from getting to where you want to be in a year? And this is your goal setting. And then what are the next steps? Maybe if my obstacle is that I'm traveling a lot every week, that's an obstacle to spending dinner with my husband 4 times a week, isn't it? Or if I am not getting clients, that's an obstacle to serving 100 women living their dreams, right? If I don't have any new people hiring me as their coach or partnering with me, then that's another obstacle in getting to $75,000 before the end of the year. So, and I'm giving you a very random number. I just picked that number because it's easy for me to do the math on that one. But again, think of that for your business, for your life. Be very clear on how that's going to affect you. So you're going to be doing all of that. You're going to be going through, what is the vision and purpose for your life? How do you want to feel about yourself? How do you feel now? How do you want to feel in a year? What obstacles, right, may come to how you want to feel in a year? And if you don't have the form, the booklet, make sure that you sign up. I'm going to put the link in here and I can send that to you. You'll also get the replay. You'll get to visit for the Q&As as well. But all of these things are going to make a lot of impact. I want you to think about, for all the major areas in your life. I mentioned before that there are 10 areas of life in which I tend to talk about in coaching with my clients, because as a business coach, I can give you the tools. I can say, hey, here, do this. This is how you do it. This is how you run a business. This is how you market this. But I am also reminding myself that when I'm working with a client, they also have children. They also have parents. They also have to buy groceries. They also, have to pay higher prices for gas or whatever it is. There's so many different things that as individuals that are hitting us. I also want you to know that the areas of life that are important to look at, because you're not just a one-dimensional person that has work, career. You also have a spiritual side, right? Whether you are religious or not, but there's a spiritual side. Where does that fall? There is someone who has, maybe you don't have a husband. Maybe you're looking to date and to date the right person for you, right? Where are you going to meet them? When are you going to make time? Because if you have a goal for your business and yet, you rather be on Match, or what's the other one, the swiper one, whatever. I see, I'm so old now. Whatever app you swipe on, or whatever app, or Bumble, right? Whatever you want to be on, it's fine. But you're going to have to make time for that. So it's very important to understand these are your goals. But if you are then spending your time swiping to find your right match, that's not in alignment with reaching your goals. Or if you want to say, I want to grow my business and launch my next course, but you're busy, right? Because, your kids are coming home from college and you are in the process of, just working maybe still full time, and you're not spending time in launching a course. So these are the things. And tomorrow we're going to talk more about scheduling. We're going to talk about productivity. We're going to talk about more specific things that you can do to get you to where you're going to be able to make this last sprint work for you. Because here's the thing, many people believe that CEO of your life is chief of everything. Chief of everything. I am here to tell you that when you try to do it all, you're going to do nothing. You're going to do nothing. That's what happens. So it's important to be able to be really clear on what you want to accomplish, what you are prioritizing, right? So for me, one of the things that I want to accomplish is better health. I don't know, if you followed me, I've had some health issues and I can't figure out what's wrong with me and why I feel like I'm going to pass out at certain times. But if I am working 12-hour days, right, and my priority has become work, is that really in alignment with my goal of being healthy? No, it's not, right? So think about, again, what is it that and again, there's going to be seasons. This is a season. This is October 2022. October 2023 could be different. January 2023 could be different. And sometimes we have to make a sprint. Sometimes we have to make it a little hectic. When I was writing my book, that's all I did for the most part. I did a lot of writing. So did I do a lot of socializing with my friends? Some, but not a lot. So that is going to be super important. The other thing, and one of the things that I'm going to share with, and I'm looking here, oh, sorry, for Facebook, you're not seeing me. The biggest thing, and this is something that our people who have signed up for the challenge will receive, is you're going to get one of my big and really fun things that is thank you, Kyra, you're amazing. Kyra says she's praying for me, so thank you. That means the world to me. One of the forms that I use is a form that allows me to, again, I have goals and I have projects, right? Projects tend to be the things that kind of move you toward achieving your goals. But it's important to know, one, for your business, what are your goals, what are your projects, and how do you want to feel with each of them? And then break down the steps. So when I signed up for the triathlon, I had to buy a bike. That was number one. I needed a bike, right? I also needed to create a schedule. And I actually started working with a trainer, right? So I hired a trainer to help me. I signed up for a swimming class, right? So all these next steps are the things that we create. Now, I will tell you, and I'm going to talk about the folder system tomorrow when I talk about the implementation of this. How do I use a folder system to really be able to prioritize all of the things that need to get done, or all of the next steps that need to get done within the goals? Okay. So you have that information. You also want to make sure that you are, and we're going to talk about this tomorrow, and this is something that every time, that I work with a client, whether it be in group coaching or whether it be in our individual coaching, we talk about an ideal calendar. I think that many of us are living by default. We are reactive to life. Reactive to life is not in conjunction with reaching your goals, right? So it's very important that you know specifically. So for instance, for me, I have a little alarm that goes off at 6 p.m. and it tells me it's time to clean my house. Why? Because what's important to me is to have a nice and tidy house, because I know that that helps my mental health. And I know that once I do like a little cleanup, and I don't spend like a whole hour, but I do like a little surface cleanup, right? And then I can cook dinner and have dinner with my husband. Now, not every day does that happen, but if my goal is to have that 4 meals with him, then I need to make those priorities in other ways. And really, again, when I was writing the book, we did a lot of work together with my husband. I've been launching this radio show. Well, it's kind of put a damper on my 4 meals with him, right? But now I know that in January or in 5 years from now, if that's important to me, that's what I need to start to work towards. The same thing with my business. If I want to service 100 women, if I want to help them reach the type of income and authority and success, because they have a big dream of touching the lives of their people, then I need to put myself in front of the women or the men or the individuals who need me. And what does that mean? It means that I need to create the time in my calendar to do so. So we're going to talk more about your ideal calendar. I'm going to show you how I use my ideal calendar, because is every week an ideal week? No, it's not. It's not an ideal week. But every week is an opportunity to recalibrate. Every Monday is my Julie date, right? Is my date with Julie, in which I analyze where my goals are, what did I do last week, what do I need to do this week, and plan for my week. And then I make sure, and I know this may not be for everyone, but I'm going to show you. So I have actually, of course, paper, pen. Here's my journal. And every week on my little journal, and this is yesterday, right? So here's the calendar. Even though this is on my Google Calendar, I write out who are my appointments, right? I write it out because I don't want to be, oh my God, the Google is telling me, sending me an alert. I need to go do that. I need that. Now, this doesn't mean that this is your system, but I want you to be aware and intentional with how you're spending your day. Because at the beginning of the week, I want to have a done list, not a to-do list daily, but a done list. And I want to look at, and what do I need to get done? What are today's priorities? So yesterday, I'm a Tiny Habits coach. So one of my priorities is that I was going to do my coaching for my habiteers. And that was a priority. So I knew that once I looked at who were the people who I was meeting with and speaking to, or doing, or recording, or writing, I needed to make sure that I had time in my calendar for my tiny habit coaches, for my tiny habits. I also knew that, my other priority, and one of my done things that I wanted to have done, is I needed to make sure that all the emails were going to be done for this, and that the booklet was done as well, right? So that was the other part of that. So it's important on a daily basis that you are looking at what your day looks like, but you are also driving your days from a plan that you have created from the week, and your plan for the week is aligned to your long-term and short-term goals, whether it be financial or for your health or for your relationships. Now, last but not least, before we go, here's the other thing that I wanted to talk about. There are things that we put in our calendar, that we put in our to-dos or our done list, that don't belong there. Do not by any means belong there. And we all do it. So I'm sorry to say, we're not bad for having them. It just means that this is something that we need to be able to practice. Because when you practice these things, you're going to find that you are more at peace. We have 24 hours in the day. Out of the 24 hours in the day that we have, we also have things that don't belong in our day or in our week. And we are not the chief of everything. We are the CEO, Chief Executive Officer. That means that as the executive officer of your life and business, you need to only prioritize the things that matter. So what I want you to think about is, in this quadrant, right? Let's do this quadrant again. And if you're in the challenge, you have this already in your list. Is that quadrant that says urgent? But the first thing is the urgent quadrant is I want you to think of all the tasks that you do, and you're going to write those all down. Whatever it is, you have to feed the dogs, let them out, cook dinner, maybe do laundry, everything, right? There's a bunch of things for your personal life, for your relationships, for your business. Make a list of everything. And then I want you to think about number one, what is the most urgent? What is important? In the top left-hand corner of your quadrant is the urgent stuff. That's pay your bills, right? Those are the things that if you don't pay the taxes, no, that's not good. If you don't pay your bills, maybe your phone gets shut off, whatever it is, right? If you need to call your doctor because you're having some issue, whatever it might be, you want to go ahead and prioritize that. Those are the things that you do first that are important and urgent and have some sort of timeline, right? Then you're going to have tasks on your top, right? Top right quadrant, the top right quadrant. You're going to have things that, well, is important, but not urgent, right? So for me, servicing clients, maybe you have other tasks that you need to complete, right? Urgent means that, you have to take care of them. Nothing can fall through the crack. It's not something that can fall through the cracks. It's something that you should delegate to an assistant. It requires you to do it, right? So for instance, for me, I make sure that I have systems, and I'm going to talk about and teach you some systems that will help you with that. But the most important thing right now is I want you to, again, they don't have a deadline, but they're urgent, that require you. A lot of people end up filling their day with things that are not that important. And if you think about it, they are things that are not important, but are urgent, right? Like maybe sending an email. That's okay. That's not urgent, not important, but we end up doing it and it fills up our day. So I want you to think about this. They're urgent list, but that are important, right? These could be things that you can also delegate. For all of these, and we're going to talk more on these again tomorrow because there's a lot to cover with those. So again, there are going to be things too that are not important, they're not urgent, and we're still spending a lot of time doing it. So those are the things that I'm going to tell you, delete. Who cares, right? Delete. I have weeds growing in my garden. Is that moving me forward in my goals? Not right now. Not important. The garden's going to die because this winter is coming, right? So let's think about this. Let it go. Be like Elsa. Let it go. Okay? So I'm going to log off of Facebook. I'm going to put the link in here if you want to get the link to the replay. Well, obviously you can watch the video here, but if you want to get the link to the to the booklet for tomorrow, for today, and for Friday. All right. And then in the meantime, I'm going to close out with my friends here on Zoom. And if they want to ask me questions, I'm going to let them do so. But don't forget, go confidently. Stay tuned for tomorrow. Same time, same station. Thank you, my friends. You're the best. Okay, ladies. So tell me, any questions so far?
No, I think that this has been a really great start. I'm really interested in the systems. I'm always excited about systems. And one of the things that I shared in the forum was being able to find systems that help to automate some of the processes that I've been doing, just because I realized that a lot of things do feel urgent, and
Yeah.
some of the things that do feel urgent, if they're automated or they're in a system, it's taken off of me and it's technically deleted, so
Exactly.
that's
And
something I'm
I
looking
love that
forward
you
to.
want the systems. I think that the systems are the things that make it a lot better to be able to accomplish the things that you want to. And sometimes, we feel that, oh, and trust me, when I started in management, middle management, upper level executive, it was hard to delegate. It was hard. Like, oh, I need to, because I felt like, oh, they're not going to get it, or it's going to take longer for me to explain to somebody how to do it. The biggest thing that I will say is, yes, there are systems. You have to also, in addition to having the systems, try different things, because my system cannot feel right for you 100% of the time. And this is why when I work with clients, I teach you different systems, not only mine, but different systems, because I want you to try them on for size. The best system is the system you use. Okay. That's the best system. Because how many times I've gotten software that I think, oh my God, that's brilliant. That's so smart. Let me do that. And then all of a sudden it's like, oh, wait a minute, that didn't work. I don't use it. It's too complicated. Yeah, it works well, but my mind doesn't work that way, right? So it's important to do that. But before you create the systems, you need to know where you're starting off and where you want to go. And by measuring that and prioritizing what's important between now and the end of the year, you're going to be able to create the systems and momentum to get you there. Make sense?
Makes total sense. Thank you.
Great. And and I have to say, I want to apologize in advance because I feel like I wasn't looking at the camera, therefore I'm not making eye contact with you. But I also wanted to make sure I'm making eye contact. So I hope that was not too distracting. I'm going to set up a different tripod for tomorrow. So
No
Awesome.
pressure.
Thanks, Julie.
you're
And
welcome.
I also have a question because
Yeah.
between the task quadrant. So I have urgent. I have projects that need to be done right now, back to
Mhm.
back, lined up.
Right.
But then I know that if I schedule out times for each of those tasks and put them back to back on a Gantt chart on a
Hmm.
calendar, I can kind of be able to predict, when each thing should start and end. So now I'm conflicted between, should I focus on these urgent projects or should I do this planning that would help me with the projects? So
So I think you know the answer to that. And I think that, perfect previous planning prevents problems.
for what
And
piece?
there's also, and so my dad used to say perfect previous planning prevents problems. And then in business, I had a boss who taught me a lot. And he is a statistician by trade. He has a PhD in statistics and planning and organizational stuff. One of the things he used to say is perfect previous planning promotes peak performance. And sometimes as we are working through something, end up being reactive to things. And when we end up being reactive, things can take a little longer and then we get sidetracked. The other thing is when we sabotage ourselves. So, for instance, sometimes I'll say, oh, I'll just do that. I'm not going to put it on my calendar and calendar the time for it. I just know I have to do it. One, I get sidetracked. Number two, the task, maybe I'm not doing it as well, or I end up, maybe not getting it done. And then I become I let myself down. And then I begin with the sabotaging thoughts. Oh, Julie, you suck. You're terrible. I can't believe you didn't do that. Or you're not good.
Once
Or
again,
so then the sabotaging, then it becomes harder to create the momentum to move forward. So for that reason, for as long as sometimes our brain will say it's going to take you longer to calendar to do the planning, sometimes the planning is what allows you to, when you get lost, like pick up, oh wait, I was supposed to at this time do that, right? Whereas, like, okay, I'm just going to work on it. Then you get distracted and you're like, what was I doing before? And then you're like, should I do this now? Oh no, I won't have enough time. Your brain will always tell you that. So, and you don't have to plan all day. You can just say, and this is one of the things that I love about Tiny Habits. You can say, you know what? I'm going to open my planner and schedule one thing in there. And that's all you're trying to do is schedule the one thing. I'm just going to write the one thing I'm going to do today. I'm going to make some time for it. And then when you do it, right, this is the tiny habits framework. You do one tiny habit. So I'm going to open the calendar and do one thing. And then I'm going to celebrate it. Oh, I wrote one thing down that I'm working on today. Yay! Guess what? Your brain will start to automate that, and then you won't have to spend so much time in the planning process. Does that make sense?
Yes, and thank you. I think I did know the answer to that. It's amazing how you know the answer, but beforehand you just feel like you don't. But yes,
No,
that's an
and
amazing
and
answer.
and it takes practice. And I think that, you know what, the other thing too is, and we'll talk a little bit more on the ideal calendar tomorrow, and we'll go through and we'll talk about, different productivity hacks and tips that can help us through the process of doing this. Okay? So any other questions?
Thank you so much.
You're
That's all.
welcome. I'm excited to see you tomorrow. You'll get the
All right.
email with book 2, confirming the time and everything. All right?
Fantastic. Thank you.
You're welcome. Goodbye, my friends.